The air smelled like rust and fear. The room was too bright, too clean, for the kind of filth it held. I remember sitting on that wooden platform, knees scraped, wrists raw from the rope. My dress wasn't really a dress. It was an old bedsheet tied around my shoulders, something they'd thrown on me to make me presentable. The man who owned the place called it the market. But everyone knew what it really was. A human auction. The kind where the weak were sold to the strong, and the strong were often monsters. I was 11 that night, small, silent, invisible, or at least I tried to be. But invisibility doesn't save you when you're put under a spotlight. The auctioneer's voice thundered across the hall like a weapon. Lot number 33. Female, unmarked, untrained, human-born. Healthy lungs, strong heart. He grinned like he was listing features of a fine horse. Starting bid, 10 silver. No one spoke. The silence was louder than the man's voice. It crawled under my skin. Even the slaves behind me shifted awkwardly, as if I was a problem no one wanted to deal with. A woman in the back whispered something to her companion. "She's too small." "Probably fragile," another said. "Can't work, can't serve, worthless, worthless." That word had followed me all my life. Through the orphanage, through the alleyways, through every locked door I'd ever begged behind. But tonight, it would carve itself into my bones. The auctioneer laughed nervously, wiping sweat from his forehead. 10 silver, anyone? Look at her eyes, bright blue, rare among humans. Surely worth the price of a pet. Still no one moved. A few men chuckled. One woman spat. I looked down, trying not to cry. Crying made them angry. The floorboards creaked as the auctioneer stepped closer. He grabbed my chin and forced my face upward. "Smile," he hissed, the words sour on his breath. "You'll sell faster." I tried, but my lips trembled instead. He slapped me. Not hard, but enough for my teeth to clack together. The audience laughed, and that's when the door opened. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was a simple sound. The creak of hinges, the hush of cold night air slipping inside. But somehow, every conversation stopped, because the man who entered didn't belong there. He was tall, broader than the guards, dressed not in silk or armor, but in something heavier, black leather that looked as though it had been through battles. His presence shifted the air, a ripple of unease spreading through the crowd. Even the auctioneer faltered, his words choking halfway out of his throat. The man didn't look at anyone. He just walked, steady, deliberate, toward the platform. When he finally lifted his gaze to me, the world seemed to narrow, like the rest of the room fell away. His eyes glowed faintly gold. Wolf eyes. I didn't know much about the world outside the market, but I knew enough to recognize danger when I saw it. An alpha, a king among wolves, the kind of creature mothers used to whisper about when they wanted children to behave. My heartbeat quickened, a trapped bird in my chest. Alpha, the auctioneer stammered, bowing so low his voice almost hit the floor. Your presence is an honor. Perhaps you're here for the warrior lot? We have fine males in the back, trained, obedient, her. The man's voice was low, gravel laced with command. He didn't even look away from me. The girl, the auctioneer blinked. My lord, surely not. She's human, small, barely of age. Not fit for... I said her. It wasn't a shout. It was something worse. Quiet, absolute. the kind of tone that carried the weight of obedience. Every wolf in the room lowered their eyes instinctively. My stomach twisted. Why me? The man, no, the alpha, reached into his coat and dropped a pouch of coins onto the table. The sound was heavy, final. Sold, he said before the auctioneer could even announce the bid. The room went silent again. No laughter this time. Only fear. The auctioneer's hands trembled as he untied my wrists. You belong to him now, girl. Bow. Thank your master. I didn't move. I couldn't. He was watching me. Those golden eyes unreadable. Not angry, not kind. Just aware. Like he could hear every heartbeat, every thought. Stand, he ordered. My legs obeyed even when my mind screamed not to. The moment I was free, I should have run. I should have bolted for the door, for the forest, for anything that wasn't this. But something about him, something ancient and strange, rooted me in place. He turned and walked out, not checking if I followed. The guards didn't stop me either. They didn't dare, so I followed. The night outside was colder than I remembered. The sky was bruised with clouds, the moon a thin white scar. His carriage, a dark, monstrous thing pulled by black horses, waited near the gates. When he opened the door, I hesitated. Get in, he said. Where? Are you taking me? I asked, my voice small, brittle. He looked at me just once. Home. The word sounded wrong. Home was something I'd never had. Home didn't exist for people like me, but I climbed in anyway. The ride was silent. The road curved through endless pines, the trees whispering secrets to each other as we passed. I pressed my fingers against the window glass, leaving faint smudges, watching my reflection blur and reform. I caught glimpses of him in the reflection, too, sitting across from me, broad shoulders, rough hands resting on his knees, eyes half-lidded but alert. Like a predator at rest, you're not afraid? He said suddenly, I startled. Should I be? A pause. Then softly, most are. I don't know what you'll do with me yet, I whispered, before I could stop myself. Something flickered in his eyes. Neither do I. He turned away, and I realized with a strange ache that he wasn't wearing the smug cruelty I'd seen on other buyers. There was no hunger, no glee, only emptiness, like he'd come here looking for something and hadn't found it. The horses slowed as we approached a massive iron gate. Beyond it stood a fortress, ancient stone, towers rising like silent sentinels against the mountains, the Alpha King's domain. The guards bowed as the carriage rolled through. Their eyes flicked to me, then quickly away. I didn't belong here, and they knew it. The carriage stopped near the entrance. He stepped out first, then offered me his hand. I stared at it, unsure if it was a trap. Come, he said again, quieter now. You're safe here. Safe. Another word that didn't fit. But his hand didn't force. It waited. I took it. The warmth of his skin surprised me. Not harsh, not cold, steady. Like the first fire after a long winter. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like prey. As we entered the castle, the scent hit me. Pine smoke, iron, and something wilder, something living. Wolves moved through the corridors, bowing their heads as he passed. I could feel their stares burning into me, their confusion. Humans didn't live here. They served, or they died. He led me into a vast chamber lit by firelight. Massive windows overlooked the forest. The floor gleamed with marble, and a throne carved from black stone stood at the center. "This will be your room," he said, opening a door off to the side. Inside was a small bed, clean sheets, and a single candle. To me, it looked like luxury. "I can't stay here," I murmured. Your pack will, they won't touch you," he interrupted. Then, after a moment, "Not while I'm alive." Something in his tone made me believe him. He turned to leave, then paused in the doorway. "What's your name?" I hesitated. No one had asked that in a long time. "Lira. Lira," he repeated, the name soft on his tongue. "Rest, you'll need your strength." "For what?" His gaze lingered for a heartbeat, unreadable. "For the truth." And then he was gone. That night I couldn't sleep. The sheets smelled like smoke and cedar, unfamiliar but comforting. I sat by the window, watching the moon drift between clouds, wondering why a creature like him would buy a girl like me. Maybe he pitied me. Maybe he wanted something I didn't understand yet, or maybe he saw something in me that no one else had. When the wind howled outside, I swore I could hear wolves in it, singing not for blood, but for something older, something lost, and for the first time in my life I felt the strange, fragile pulse of belonging. I woke to the sound of footsteps outside my door, heavy, rhythmic, controlled. Not the kind that ran, the kind that commanded. My heart stuttered. For a second I didn't remember where I was. The ceiling above me wasn't cracked wood or moldy stone. It was carved, smooth, and painted with ancient marks I couldn't read. The bed beneath me was soft, almost too soft, like sleeping inside a dream that didn't belong to me. Then it came back. The auction. The golden eyes. The word home spoken like a promise I didn't understand. The footsteps stopped outside. Then came the knock, firm, measured. "Lira," a woman's voice called. "The Alpha requests your presence." Alpha. Even the sound of it carried weight. I rose slowly, clutching the edge of the blanket. "Where?" I whispered. "In the great hall. Dress quickly." When she opened the door, I saw her clearly. Tall, silver-haired, with eyes like amber glass. A wolf, but not like the others I'd seen in cages. Her movements were sharp, elegant, as if she had been carved from the same cold marble that... She tossed me a folded garment, plain linen but clean. I changed quietly while she waited, watching me the way hawks watch smaller creatures. "You're lucky," she said finally. "Most humans who enter this castle never leave it alive." I froze. Her lips curved into a small, humorless smile. "But the king, he's not like most. Come." The hall was enormous. Stone pillars rose into shadow, torches casting amber light across banners stitched with a crest I didn't recognize. A wolf beneath a broken crown. And at the far end, on a raised dais, sat him, the Alpha King. He wasn't wearing his armor today. His black tunic clung to his shoulders, simple but regal, and the firelight caught the faint scars along his hands. He didn't need gold or crowns. His presence alone was heavier than the throne he sat on. When I approached, every guard's gaze followed me. I could feel their contempt, their confusion. A human girl walking freely in the heart of their kingdom. "Bow," whispered the woman behind me. I did. "Raise your head," his voice commanded. I obeyed, though my chest felt like it was collapsing under his stare. His eyes weren't golden now. They were darker, like molten amber. Still dangerous, but tired somehow. "You slept well?" he asked. It wasn't a question I expected. "Yes," I lied. He leaned back slightly. "Good. You'll be staying here for a while." "Why?" The word slipped out before I could swallow it. His gaze didn't waver. "Because you are not what they think you are." "I'm human," I whispered. "That's all?" A small, strange smile ghosted across his lips. "Are you?" He stood then, and the movement was so fluid it made the air seem to shift around him. "Come with me." He led me through long corridors that smelled faintly of pine and iron. Through a set of heavy doors, we entered a room filled with old parchment and maps. Weapons hung on the walls, silver blades, spears etched with runes, a massive sword mounted above the fireplace. The place reeked of history. "This is the war room," he said. Then softer, "And this is where I first saw your name." "My name?" I frowned. "You didn't even know it." He picked up a piece of parchment from the table and handed it to me. I hesitated before touching it. The parchment was old, yellowed, and written in strange looping runes. At the top, though, were words even I could read, faint but clear. "Lira of the Old Blood." I blinked. "This isn't me." "It is," he said quietly. Or rather, it was. Centuries ago. My hands trembled as I set it down. "That doesn't make sense." "Neither does your scent," he said, watching me carefully. "You smell human, but beneath it, there's something older. Something I've only felt once before." I took a step back. "What are you saying?" He didn't answer. Instead, he turned toward the fire, the flames painting his face in bronze and shadow. "When I came to that auction, I wasn't looking for a slave. I was looking for you. But you didn't know me." "I knew the name," he murmured. "And I knew the prophecy." The word prophecy made the room colder. He looked at me again, not with the sharpness of command, but with the weight of belief. "It says that when the moon bleeds red, the lost daughter of the old blood will return to wake the king of wolves. And with her coming, the war between beasts and men will end, or begin anew." "I don't understand," I whispered. "I'm no one, maybe," he said, "but fate rarely chooses the ones who think they're worthy." The door opened suddenly, breaking the silence. A man entered, younger, rougher, his brown hair tousled, his eyes burning with hostility. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing sharply, "forgive my intrusion, but the council demands your presence. They're concerned about the human." His gaze flicked to me with open disgust. The Alpha King didn't even look at him. "They can wait. They say keeping her here endangers the pack," the man pressed. "If she's human, she's under my protection," the king interrupted, his voice calm but lethal. "Anyone who forgets that will answer to me." The tension snapped like wire. The man lowered his head, retreating through the door. When he was gone, I exhaled shakily. "They hate me." "They fear what they don't understand," he replied. "You'll learn that quickly." "Why protect me then?" I asked. "You don't even know if I'm who you think I am." His eyes met mine, burning quietly. "Because the last time I ignored a prophecy, I lost my entire family." That night, I stood again by the window of my room, watching snow begin to fall. The world outside was wrapped in silence, but inside me, everything churned. The parchment, the prophecy, The way his voice cracked when he said, "Lost my family." I didn't know if I was the girl from his legend or just another orphan wearing someone else's fate. But deep down, something inside me, something old and waiting, stirred like it had just remembered its name. And for the first time since the auction, I wasn't afraid of the Alpha King. I was afraid of myself. Snow fell without sound that morning. Thick flakes, slow and deliberate, as if the heavens were holding their breath. I stood at the window again, watching the world disappear beneath white. From this height, the forest looked endless, a kingdom sleeping under frost, a cage of beauty. My reflection stared back at me in the glass. Pale skin, bruised eyes, hair tangled from restless dreams. Nothing royal, nothing ancient, just a girl who didn't belong anywhere, but inside me, something had changed. The knock came at dawn. When I opened the door, the silver-haired woman, the one who'd fetched me before, was waiting. Her name was Mara, I'd learned. She wasn't a servant. She was the Alpha King's second in command. "The king requests your presence," she said curtly. "Training yard." "Training?" I echoed. Her eyes flicked over me, cool and assessing. "He wishes to see how weak you are." It wasn't an insult. It was fact. The courtyard was alive with motion. Warriors sparred in the snow, their breaths white in the freezing air. Every strike cracked like thunder. Every growl echoed through the walls. Wolves in human skin, graceful and terrifying. When I stepped outside, the noise faltered. Dozens of eyes turned toward me. I could feel the contempt before I heard it. She smells human. She shouldn't be here. The king's losing his mind. Mara ignored them and led me forward. The Alpha King stood near the center, coat unfastened, snow gathering in his dark hair. His gaze found me instantly. "You came," he said. "You didn't give me much choice," I murmured. That earned a faint flicker of a smile. "Good. Defiance looks better on you than fear." He gestured to the training circle. "Step in," I hesitated. The snow was cold beneath my bare feet. "Why?" "Because strength isn't inherited," he said. "It's revealed." At first I thought it was a test, or maybe a punishment. But when he drew a wooden staff and tossed another toward me, something in me shifted, a pulse beneath my skin, a whisper under the surface of my thoughts. "Defend yourself," he said simply. "I don't know how." "Then learn fast." The staff struck the ground near my ankle, sending up a spray of snow. I jumped back, heart hammering. He didn't move like the others. He moved like smoke. Silent, controlled. "Focus," he said. "Watch my shoulders, not the weapon." I tried. I failed. He struck again, light, precise, and grazing my arm. The sting burned through the cold. "Anger will help," he murmured. "But only if you control it." I gritted my teeth and swung back, awkward but determined. He dodged effortlessly. The wolves watching laughed softly. Something inside me cracked. Not just humiliation, and something deeper. That same pulse again, sharper now, rising from beneath my ribs. When he swung once more, I moved without thinking, ducked low, spun, and the staff in my hand glowed, just for a moment, a flicker of pale silver light. The snow around my feet spiraled upward like a storm caught in breath. The laughter stopped. The Alpha King froze, eyes narrowing. Stop, but it was too late. The energy, whatever it was, exploded outward. A shockwave of wind and frost slammed into the circle, knocking several warriors back. I stumbled, dropping the staff, gasping as the light died and silence crashed down. Every gaze turned to me again. But this time, it wasn't contempt. It was fear. "What was that?" I whispered, voice shaking. The king's expression was unreadable. He stepped closer, scanning my hands, the frost still crawling up my veins like veins of ice. "You felt it, didn't you?" I nodded weakly. "It hurt." "It's not supposed to," he muttered. Mara appeared beside him, eyes wide. "My king, this is old magic. I haven't seen it since." He silenced her with a look. "Not here," he turned to me, his voice low. "Come." We walked through quiet corridors, down spiraling stone steps into the depths of the castle. The air grew colder with every step. Torches burned blue instead of gold. "What is this place?" I asked. "The catacombs," he said. "The first kings are buried here." We entered a chamber carved entirely of ice. In the center stood a massive sarcophagus, sealed with silver. Strange symbols pulsed faintly on its surface, the same ones from the parchment he'd shown me. "Who is that?" "My ancestor," he said softly. "The first Alpha King. He built this kingdom with the help of the old blood. Your blood." I stared at him. "You're saying we're connected?" "More than connected." He placed a hand on the icy coffin. "Without your kind, ours wouldn't exist." I took a step back, shaking my head. "No, I'm just a girl from the market. I'm nothing." He turned then, eyes burning with quiet fury. "Do not say that again." Something cracked in his tone, not anger, but grief. "The market is where they send the lost," he said. "Someone wanted you hidden. He hesitated. "Because if the wrong wolves find you first, the world burns." That night, sleep didn't come. My veins still tingled with the echo of that strange power. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the frost, the light, his face when it happened. Not afraid, but almost relieved, like he'd been waiting for it. When I finally drifted into a restless half-dream, I heard a voice, faint, ancient, and eerily familiar. Lira of the Old Blood. "Wake the king, or he will drown in the dark." I jolted upright, heart racing. The candle had burned low, its wax pooling like melted snow. Outside my window, the forest was alive again, not with wolves, but with whispers. And for the first time, I realized the truth. Whatever was happening to me had only just begun. The castle woke to the sound of howling. Not the wild, distant kind that drifted through the woods. This was closer, sharper, desperate. I sat up in bed before I was fully awake. The candle had long burned out. Darkness filled every corner of the room except for the thin silver light seeping through the window. The moon hung low, swollen, red as blood. Something was wrong. Even the walls seemed to tremble. Then came the screams. I ran to the door just as it burst open. Mara stood there, hair undone, blood streaked across her sleeve. "Stay inside," she barked. "What's happening?" "Rogues." Her chest heaved, eyes blazing gold. "The wards are down. Someone betrayed us." I froze. "Where's the Alpha?" She hesitated for half a heartbeat. "In the courtyard, holding them off." And then she was gone, vanishing into the hall like a streak of silver. I should have done what she said, locked the door, hidden, waited. But something in me wouldn't allow it. A pulse, old, cold, alive, thudded in my chest like another heartbeat. The same feeling that had burned through me in the training yard. Only now it was stronger. The corridors were chaos. Wolves half-shifted, claws and teeth flashing in the moonlight. Blood smeared the walls. The scent of iron was everywhere. I stumbled down the staircase, heart pounding, until I reached the main hall, where the doors were splintered open. The courtyard beyond looked like a nightmare. Fire licked the edges of the snow, and bodies, both wolf and man, lay scattered across the stones. The air was filled with growls and roars that shook the earth itself, and at the center of it all was him, the Alpha King. He fought like something out of legend, every movement a blur of strength and precision. His claws gleamed under the red moon, his eyes burning gold as he tore through the attackers. But there were too many. "Mara!" he shouted, slashing through another rogue. "Fall back to the gate." She appeared near the wall, limping, her blade slick with blood. "There are too many. Someone's controlling them." I took a step forward, just one, and then froze as a figure emerged from the shadows behind the flames. Tall, hooded, the scent of rot and magic thick around him. His voice was calm, almost amused. "The prophecy lies," he said. "The old blood is dead." The Alpha King turned sharply, eyes narrowing. "Who are you?" "Someone who remembers the past better than you do." He lifted a hand, and the ground cracked open beneath the king's feet. A ripple of black energy shot outward, freezing the air itself. I didn't think. "I ran! Lira!" Mara shouted, but her voice was drowned out by the storm building in my veins. The world narrowed to one thing. The Alpha King, on his knees, struggling to rise while the hooded man raised his hand again. "Don't!" I screamed. But the sound came out layered, ancient, like another voice spoke through me. The air split. A surge of power erupted from my chest, white and blinding, tearing through the night. The flames froze mid-motion, the snow turned to shards of light, and every sound died. When I opened my eyes, I was standing in a circle of frost that pulsed with silver veins. The hooded man was gone. Every rogue lay motionless, some frozen, some turned to ash. The Alpha King stared at me, his expression unreadable. His chest rose and fell heavy with disbelief. "What did you do?" he whispered. I don't know." My voice shook. My hands glowed faintly, frost crawling across my skin like veins of glass. "I just wanted to stop him." He stepped closer, slowly, as if approaching a wild creature. "You did more than stop him." I looked around. The courtyard was eerily silent now. The moon hung pale again, the blood washed from its face. "What was that man?" I asked, his jaw tightened. "A warlock. The last of the Shadow Coven. They shouldn't have been able to breach the wards." He said the prophecy lies. He looked away, eyes dark. "Prophecies don't lie. People do." We stood in silence for a long time. The snow fell again, soft, almost merciful. Then he took my hand. His touch was warm against the cold creeping through me. "You saved us," he said. "Saved me. I didn't mean to. Meaning doesn't change what is." He looked at the frost still shimmering around us, a perfect circle carved into the stone. "This mark," he said quietly, "appeared once before. When my ancestor was crowned, they said it was the Old Blood's blessing. My breath caught. So it's real, he nodded. And it chose you. By morning, the castle was quiet again. The wounded were tended, the fires doused, the dead laid to rest in the courtyard. I stood by the balcony, staring at the circle of frost still gleaming faintly below. It hadn't melted, not even under the sun. Mara approached, her usual steel softened. "He won't say it aloud," she murmured, "but the king's alive because of you." I didn't know what I was doing. Neither did the first Queen of Wolves, she said. And yet she changed the world. She placed something in my hand, a small pendant, silver, shaped like a crescent moon. "He asked me to give you this. It belonged to his mother." I looked down at it, the metal cool against my skin. "Why me?" Mara smiled faintly. "Maybe because you make him remember what it's like to hope." That night, as I lay in bed, the world outside finally slept. The moon hung white again, pure, unblemished. I turned the pendant in my hand, feeling its quiet hum. For the first time since the market, I didn't feel like something to be sold or pitied. I felt like a promise. But somewhere deep within the forest, a new howl rose, one I didn't recognize. And with it came a whisper in my mind, the same voice from my dreams. "The blood has awakened. Now the war begins." I opened my eyes, heart pounding. The frost on my window formed a single word in shimmering letters. Run. The storm came before dawn. Not of rain or snow, but of sound, horns, shouts, the roar of wolves. I was still half asleep when the door slammed open. "Get up." Mara's voice cut through the dark. "They're here." I sat up, disoriented, heart pounding. "Who?" "The Shadow Coven," she hissed, yanking me to my feet. "They've returned, with an army." Cold bit through my skin as she shoved a cloak into my hands. "Where's the Alpha?" "Already fighting." Those words ripped through me sharper than the wind. The castle was chaos again, this time worse. The walls that had felt so eternal last night were now trembling under attack. Flames licked the battlements. The scent of blood hung thick in the corridors. I followed Mara down the hall, clutching the pendant around my neck. The silver crescent was warm now, pulsing like a heartbeat. When we reached the courtyard, I saw him. The Alpha King stood atop the broken steps, sword gleaming under the gray light. His coat was torn, his arm bleeding, but his stance, gods, it was unbreakable. Around him, wolves fought in both skin and fur. The snow was stained red, and beyond the gates, an army of shadows. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Their eyes glowed blue, not gold, and their movements were wrong, too still, too silent. Controlled. The Warlock was among them, his hood lowered now. His face was pale, ageless, with black veins creeping from his eyes. "You cannot fight prophecy, Alpha," he called, voice carrying over the battle. "The Old Blood belongs to us." His gaze turned to me, found me instantly, and then he smiled. "Ah, there she is." The Alpha turned sharply. "Lira, go back inside." "I'm not leaving you." "This isn't your fight." I met his gaze, trembling but firm. "It became mine the moment you raised your hand at that auction." Something like pain flickered through his eyes. Then resolve. He tore off his cloak and threw it toward me. "Then stay close. The gates shattered under a wave of black fire. It rolled across the courtyard, devouring everything it touched. Wolves screamed as it hit, not burning flesh, but stealing light from their eyes, freezing them in motion. The Alpha roared, a sound that shook the snow from the mountains. His body twisted mid-leap, fur rippling over muscle, eyes glowing bright gold as he landed before me in full wolf form. The Shadow army poured through the smoke. Mara joined at his flank, blade flashing. "We can't hold them here." "Then we don't," he growled, voice low and broken through his shifting jaw. "We run." He lunged forward, grabbed my arm, and together we plunged through a side gate as the castle burned behind us. The forest swallowed us whole. Branches whipped past, snow crunching underfoot, the Alpha in front cutting through the dark like a phantom. Behind us, the Warlock's army closing in, the cold clawed at my lungs. I could barely see, barely breathe. "We can't outrun them," I shouted. "We don't have to," he said. "We just have to get to the ridge." "What's there?" Safety, maybe. Not exactly comforting. A shadow darted past. Then another. Figures moving between the trees. Too fast, too quiet. "Down," he snarled, and I hit the ground just as a spear of black energy tore through the air where I'd been standing. The snow exploded beside me. I rolled, gasping. "They're everywhere!" He shifted back into human form, grabbing a fallen blade from the ground. "Stay behind me." But before I could move, one of the shadows lunged, a creature half wolf, half specter. Its claws caught my arm, slicing through the cloak. I screamed, and something in me answered. The world froze, literally. Every tree around us shimmered with frost. Every branch crackled under a sudden weight of ice. The creature's body turned white mid-leap, suspended in air like a sculpture. The Alpha turned, eyes wide. "Lira, I didn't mean..." But the words died as another wave of power tore through me. My vision blurred, silver bleeding into the edges of the world. I could feel everything. The heartbeat of the earth, the howl of the wind, the blood inside every living thing. It was too much. He grabbed my face, forcing me to look at him. "Breathe." "I can't. Look at me." His voice cut through the storm. His hands were rough, grounding, warm even against the ice spreading from my veins. "You control it." "It doesn't control you." The power surged again, but this time I pulled it inward, contained it. The frost retreated. The world exhaled. I collapsed against him, shaking. "You did it," he whispered, holding me close. "You stopped it." "No," I said weakly, looking toward the frozen creature. "I killed it." He followed my gaze, and then quietly, "It was already dead." We reached the ridge as the sun broke over the mountains. From there I looked back, and my heart cracked. The castle was burning. Smoke rose into the pale sky, carrying the ashes of everything that had once felt untouchable. Mara was nowhere to be seen. Neither were the other wolves. "Did anyone survive?" I asked. He didn't answer. His jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the rising smoke. After a long moment, he spoke. "They'll come for us again. The Warlock won't stop until he has you. Then what do we do?" He turned to me, the dawn light cutting across his face. "We find out why he wants you, and we end him." His tone left no room for argument. But as I looked at him, at the man who had saved me, who had bought me, who now stood at the edge of ruin because of me. I felt something deeper than fear. It wasn't just duty anymore. It wasn't even prophecy. It was fate. That night we made camp deep in the woods. He sat by the fire, silent, eyes reflecting the flames. I watched him from across the small clearing, the pendant warm against my chest. "Why did you save me that night?" I asked softly. He didn't look up. "Because I saw something I thought I'd lost." "What?" "Hope." For a long time, neither of us spoke. The forest whispered around us. The fire crackled. And for the first time since I could remember, silence didn't feel empty. It felt like something waiting. Something inevitable. When I finally closed my eyes, I dreamt again. This time, the voice was clearer. "The blood of kings and wolves is one. When the moon turns red again, only love will save the crown." I woke with tears on my cheeks, and when I looked at him sleeping beside the fire, I finally understood what the prophecy meant. It wasn't about kingdoms or battles. It was about us. The snow had stopped falling, but the silence that followed felt heavier than any storm. It was the kind of quiet that comes before something ends, or begins again. We had been running for days, through forests that whispered our names, through mountains that bled with the memory of war. And now, as dawn broke across a valley of silver frost, we finally reached it. The ruins. The Alpha King stood beside me, his breath clouding the air. "This is where it began," he said. "The Temple of the Old Blood." I looked up at the crumbling arches, half swallowed by ice and time. Symbols covered the stones. The same sigils that had burned beneath my skin when my power awoke. It felt like the ground itself was remembering me. We entered slowly. The air inside the ruins shimmered faintly, like mist caught in sunlight. At the center stood an altar of black stone. Above it, a broken moon carved into the ceiling, its eyes hollow, watching. The king's voice was low. The first Alpha made his vow here, bound his blood to the old line. They said when the world forgot, the bond would sleep until the next heir rose. "And that's me," I whispered. He turned, eyes meeting mine. "It was always you." Before I could speak, the wind shifted. Cold. Wrong. The shadows moved again. The Warlock stepped out from behind a broken pillar, his cloak torn, his skin now fully consumed by the black veins spreading from his heart. His smile was sharp as a blade. "I told you," he said softly. "The old blood belongs to us." The Alpha King stepped in front of me, sword drawn. "You'll never touch her," the Warlock laughed. "Do you still not see? She is the weapon. The moment she awakens, every wall between life and death falls." His hand rose, and the ruins trembled. Bones burst from the snow. Dozens of wolves clawed their way out of the ground, their eyes blue, their souls hollow. The Alpha didn't hesitate. He lunged forward, blade flashing, meeting the first wave head-on. I watched as he cut through them, his movements desperate and fierce. But for every creature that fell, 2 more rose. He was being surrounded. "Lira," he shouted, "run!" But I couldn't move. The pendant around my neck burned, white hot. The stone at the center split open, spilling silver light across my chest. The air thickened. The sigils on the walls flared to life. The ruins recognized me. The Warlock turned, eyes wide. "No! No, it's too soon!" The light inside me erupted, It wasn't pain this time. It was release. Every heartbeat, every memory, every piece of myself that had been broken or hidden or sold, it all came pouring out in one blinding wave. The ground split, but it wasn't destruction. It was rebirth. A column of silver fire rose from the altar, swirling around me. The snow melted to water. The ice turned to light. I saw them. Flashes of lives not my own. A woman crowned in silver fur, a wolf kneeling before her. A vow whispered under a red moon, together, until the last dawn. When the vision faded, the warlock was screaming. His shadows dissolved, one by one, pulled apart by the same power he had tried to steal. His body cracked like glass, breaking into 1,000 shards that scattered into the wind, and then silence again. The light dimmed. I fell to my knees. The Alpha King caught me before I hit the ground. His arms were strong, trembling. "Lira," he whispered. I looked up at him. "It's over." He shook his head. "No, it's just beginning." Behind him, the altar glowed faintly, no longer black, but silver. The curse was broken. The land was breathing again. His hand brushed my cheek, gentle despite the blood and ash. "You saved us all. I didn't do it alone." He smiled faintly. "You were never alone." We stayed like that as the sun rose. The ruins glistened, frost melting into tiny rivers that ran down to the valley. The wolves that had survived began to emerge from the trees, wary at first, then bowing low when they saw us. The king helped me stand, keeping his hand entwined with mine. "They're bowing to you," I murmured. "No," he said softly. "They're bowing to us." The words made something in me ache, not with pain, but with the strange warmth of belonging. I looked up at the sky. The red moon was gone. Only silver light remained. That night, we built a fire beneath the open stars. The forest around us was quiet again, peaceful. He sat close, the warmth of his body cutting through the cold. His coat was torn, his knuckles bruised, but his eyes, gods, his eyes were alive. "Do you believe in destiny?" I asked. He smiled without looking away from the fire. "I didn't. Until I met you." I laughed softly, leaning into him. "Then what now? A king and a cursed girl. What happens after the story ends?" He turned to me, his hand brushing the silver pendant still glowing faintly between us. "It doesn't end," he said. "It just changes shape." He kissed me then, slow, steady, like the world had been waiting for it. And when his lips met mine, the pendant pulsed once more, sealing the promise in light. The forest sighed. The wolves howled. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of what came next, because I wasn't the girl from the market anymore. I was Lira of the Old Blood, Queen of Wolves, and beside me stood the Alpha King, my fate, my home, my forever. Under the silver moon, the world finally knew peace, and the girl no one wanted became the heartbeat of a kingdom reborn. You've been listening to the Alpha Love Stories, where fate, blood, and love collide under a moon that never forgets. If this story touched your heart, like the video, subscribe to our channel and share your thoughts below. We post daily alpha love stories, and we're chasing our next goal, 1,000 subscribers.